In the ancient forest, shrouded in mist, of mythical Greece, where no torch could dispel the eternal darkness, there is a legend that has been whispered through the centuries. It is said that when the moon rises overhead, if you lose your way into a forest unmarked on any map, you may see a faint white figure, light as the wind, swift as lightning, eyes as bright as the moon, and hands poised with a silver bow ready to strike. It is not an illusion. It is Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, the goddess of the moon, and the protector of the wild forests. Artemis was unlike any other goddess of Olympus. She did not care for gold, silver, thrones, or lavish feasts in palaces of white clouds. Her world was nature, where wild animals roared, trees whispered, and the moon illuminated things too sacred to name. She was born from a flight, grew up in the darkness, and chose to live a solitary life, free from love or ties. Only herself, her bow and arrows, and an anger no one dared challenge. Many tried to enter the forbidden forest, hoping to find beauty, tenderness, or pity in the goddess, but they were mistaken. She was not the gentle moonlight. She was the cold moonlight, casting a sharp light on every mistake and punishing those who dared violate the sacred. To Artemis, beauty was not for admiration, but for respect. The sacred was not for possession, but for distance. So who is Artemis? Why does she possess such strange powers? Why do all forest creatures bow before her, yet humans, even if they glimpse her once, must pay with blood? From terrifying myths, like the death of Actaeon, to sorrowful tales, like the sacrifice of Iphigenia, all paint a portrait of a goddess who could not be tamed. Today, let us open the door and step into that sacred forest. And remember, if you hear the sound of leaves falling when there is no wind, if the moonlight suddenly chills you to the bone, Artemis may be watching you. Before Artemis became the goddess of the hunt, the goddess of the moon, and the protector of the sacred forests, she was a child born amidst the pursuit, hatred, and curse of the gods. Her mother, the goddess Leto, carried twins by Zeus, the king of the gods, but was loathed by Hera, Zeus's legitimate wife. Out of jealousy, Hera forbade any land beneath the sun from offering Leto shelter or allowing her to give birth. Leto wandered, heavily pregnant, driven away by gods and humans alike, as an omen of misfortune. In despair, she found refuge on the island of Delos, a land untouched by the sun, not ruled by any. There, under the palm trees, amidst the sound of the sea breeze and the agonizing pain of labor, Leto gave birth to Artemis. Immediately after her birth, Artemis did something extraordinary. She helped her mother deliver her twin brother, Apollo. No cries, no fear, no weakness like an ordinary child. From that moment, her fate was tied to blood, life, and the strange powers of the moon. When she was 9 years old, Artemis stood before Zeus, her great father, ruler of the sky. Without hesitation, she asked him for 7 things: not gold or silver, not love, and certainly not the power of a high-ranking goddess. She only asked to live freely in the sacred forest, to have her silver bow and arrows, to remain forever a virgin, and to punish anyone who dared violate her sacredness. Zeus smiled, perhaps in admiration, perhaps in fear, and granted her all. From then on, Artemis withdrew from the noisy world of mortals and gods. She did not live on Mount Olympus, but roamed the deep forests, accompanied by her band of nymphs and loyal animals. She did not need a throne. She only needed a precise arrow, a quiet forest, and a moonlit night that blanketed the sky. But Artemis was not just a hunter. She was the embodiment of the moon, that mysterious light that never shone the same between nights. When gentle, Artemis protected mothers and helped newborns. When angry, she brought plagues, caused crops to wither, and had no hesitation in ending the lives of those who dared offend her. Her purity was not weakness. It was an inviolable principle. Anyone who violated it would pay the price. She was the perfect opposite of her twin brother, Apollo, the sun god. While Apollo shone brightly during the day, Artemis was the cool darkness of the moonlit night. If Apollo represented reason and light, Artemis was instinct, primal mystery, and the uncontrollable power of nature. Artemis did not belong to love, nor to war. She was herself, an independent, free, and inviolable entity, and that is why she was never easy to understand, but never forgotten. There is a legend still whispered among hunters deep in the Greek forests, as a warning not written down in any text. It tells of a man, brave, skilled, but who, in a moment of carelessness, paid the price with his own blood. His name was Actaeon. Actaeon was a famous hunter from Thebes, born into an aristocratic family and raised alongside nature. He loved the forests, understood the birds' calls, the tracks of beasts, and was a master archer. Many times, people saw him return from hunts with a lion's skin over his shoulders, his eyes proud and his strong beauty admired by many young women. But Actaeon was not just passionate about hunting wild beasts. He also harbored a desire to conquer the divine, and it was this desire that led him to a tragic, inescapable fate. One hot summer day, when the sun was at its peak, and all creatures in the forest hid in the shade, Actaeon, along with his entourage, ventured deep into the Cithaeron forest. He lost his way, strayed from his companions, and when the sun began to set, he suddenly heard the sound of running water, a sound as soft as an invitation. Drawn to the sound, Actaeon followed the wet trail, weaving through dense bushes. He did not know he was entering a forbidden territory, a place where even the wind crept cautiously and the leaves whispered in fear. At a secluded creek, nestled between towering cliffs, Artemis, with her nymph attendants, was bathing after a hunt. The last rays of the day shone through the leaves, creating a soft halo around her form, a beauty pure, untouchable, not meant to be seen by any mortal eyes. But Actaeon did not know, or perhaps knew, but it was too late. He pushed aside the leaves, and for a brief moment, his eyes met hers. Artemis turned. She did not scream. She did not panic. She simply stood there, her gaze not angry, but as cold as the winter moon. The entire space seemed to freeze. Drops of water hung in the air. The nymphs held their breath. The forest fell silent. She did not speak a word. With a slight gesture, she flicked a few drops of water from the stream onto Actaeon, and the dark magic began. The hunter's skin sprouted fur. His hands shriveled into beastly hooves. His eyes widened in panic, but he could not speak. His mouth, once resonating with the triumphant hunting calls, now only emitted trembling howls. In the blink of an eye, Actaeon transformed into a deer. Panicked he ran, but the forest became unfamiliar. No one recognized him. No friends, no family. And then, from afar, the sound of barking dogs echoed. Barking he had once loved, trained, with all his heart. Actaeon's hounds, blindly loyal, smelled the unfamiliar scent of a deer and charged. They did not recognize their master, only the trembling prey beneath the forest shadow. They bit, they tore. The howls echoed through the forest night as the moon rose, illuminating the most tragic death the Cithaeron forest had ever witnessed. Actaeon, the legendary hunter, became prey, killed by his own pack. Some say Artemis was too cruel, that it was just an accidental glance, one without desire or insult, but others argue, for Artemis, purity is inviolable, whether accidental or intentional. No one may touch, even with a glance, the sacred beauty she guards for herself and the wild forests. From that day, the creek where Artemis bathed was called the place no one dares go, and hunters who later set foot in the Actaeon forest would bow their heads and swear, "I hunt only beasts, not gods." When thinking of Artemis, one often imagines a solitary goddess in the forest, her silver bow raised, eyes as cold as the moon, ready to bring disaster upon anyone who offends her. But Artemis was not just a punisher. She was a protector of nature, of innocent souls, of children, and of women struggling between life and death. She was the whisper of the deep forest, the invisible hand that shielded mothers in labor, the one who carried the souls of children to the other side before they could call out to their parents. In her anger, Artemis was a divine force that sowed terror, but in her silence, she was the final refuge for the fragile souls forgotten by the world. People once told the story of Iphigenia, the daughter of Agamemnon, the legendary king of Mycenae. When the Greek fleet was preparing to sail to lay siege to Troy, the wind suddenly stopped, and the sea became as calm as a mirror, with no wave to lift the sails. The oracles declared that it was the anger of Artemis, for Agamemnon had offended her. To appease the goddess, the king had to sacrifice his own daughter, Iphigenia. They say Iphigenia did not cry. She stepped onto the altar with extraordinary courage, and just as the blade was about to fall, a miracle occurred. A blinding white light shone, and in an instant, Iphigenia vanished. In her place stood a sacred deer. Artemis had taken the girl, no one knew where, but from that moment, it was believed that the goddess was not only capable of anger, she also knew mercy. That story, thousands of years later, still serves as a reminder. Artemis is not a cold-hearted deity. She demands absolute respect for nature, for the laws of life and death, and for things sacred that cannot be bargained with. But when those boundaries are crossed, Artemis becomes an unrelenting punisher. Remember the name Niobe, the queen of Thebes, once standing side by side with the gods, but who made a fatal mistake: arrogance. Niobe had 7 sons and 7 daughters, children who were perfect in both talent and beauty. During a feast for Leto, the mother of Artemis and Apollo, Niobe raised her voice and said, "Why do you worship Leto, who bore only 2 children, while I have 14 perfect children? It is I who deserve to be worshipped." Her words were like a knife tearing at the pride of Artemis and Apollo. Without waiting for dawn, the twin gods unleashed their wrath. Apollo killed all of Niobe's sons. Artemis raised her bow, and each silver arrow pierced through her daughters. One by one, they fell in desperate cries. Only one child remained, or in some versions, none at all. Niobe embraced her child's body, her tears running dry, her heart broken. In the end, she was turned into a stone, still standing there to this day, where her tears continue to flow as an endless stream. Artemis did not kill out of hatred. She punished because of the rules. Those who offend sacred values, motherhood, humility, or the natural cycle, will face consequences, whether kings, queens, or hunters, all are the same before her silver arrows. But the most frightening thing is not Artemis's wrath. It is that she never forgives. She is the moonlit night, cold, silent, and forever observing. Though Greek mythology has faded into the dust of time, the name Artemis still quietly lives in the minds of people. Like the moonlight that never fully disappears from the night sky, people no longer set up altars to her in deep forests, nor offer white deer, or seek her protection before childbirth. But the image of Artemis, with her silver bow in hand, her hair flowing in the wind, and her cold, sharp gaze beneath the moonlight, still exists in art, poetry, and in the very subconscious of modern people. In ancient times, Artemis was a symbol of absolute freedom, unbound by marriage, love, or royal power. She was the first goddess to refuse the role of wife that ancient Greek society reserved for women. She lived on her own terms, independent of anyone, unyielding to any force, even the most powerful gods on Mount Olympus. Because of this, over time, Artemis gradually became a model for strong, independent women who did not live to please others. In Renaissance and modern philosophy and literature, she was likened to the spirit of the sacred forest, of pure things that society could not tarnish. As sculpture and painting reached their peak, Artemis appeared as an immortal huntress, youthful, strong, always in motion, as if she would never stop. She was often depicted with a deer, a hunting dog, or a crescent moon on her forehead. A symbol of the unending cycle of nature, Artemis embodied the wild, untamable, and unpossessable forces of nature. But Artemis is not just a mythical figure. In the consciousness of modern people, she has become a spiritual symbol of protection, of sacred justice, and of boundaries that must not be violated. Women fighting for fairness, for the environment, for reproductive rights and bodily autonomy. They carry within them a part of Artemis's spirit. Even the gentle but distant light of the moon, a symbol forever tied to Artemis, remains an endless source of inspiration for sensitive souls. Those who feel they do not belong in the noisy world outside, they find comfort in her, as if there is a silent goddess watching over them, saying nothing, but always ready to draw her bow to protect them when needed. And so, though her temples may be in ruins, and the age of the gods has receded into legend, Artemis has never left. She still walks through deep forests at night, still draws her bow on the edge of the modern world, still protects things pure and sacred, whether they exist in memory, in dreams, or in stories passed down through generations. Artemis, the goddess of the wilds and the moon, exists not only in ancient stories, but still echoes in the soul of every person. She is a symbol of freedom, an image of strong and independent women, unbound by society's molds or stereotypes of the female role. For those who love freedom, who seek connection with nature, Artemis remains an eternal source of inspiration. But Artemis is also the guardian of sacred values and punishes those who cross the boundaries that must not be violated. Her story of justice, of protecting pure souls, and of the price one pays when violating innocence, still resonates in every generation. Artemis is not a goddess of cruelty. She is the embodiment of protection and high ideals, a timeless reminder to respect nature and the basic moral principles. And though the world may change, though her temples may fall to ruin over time, she will always remain an inseparable part of the human heart, like the moon in the night sky, quietly but eternally. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the video. If you found the video helpful and interesting, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos. Wishing you a wonderful day, and see you in the next video.